Hey everyone, hope you guys are having a good night. It has been a busy, busy day and a busy, busy night. And we have some Bryan Kohberger things to talk about. Apparently, he has a new alibi. And as you can see, I'm using air quotes here because that's how I feel about it. As a lot of y'all know, I get asked about the Idaho case quite a bit. I do cover the Idaho case, but typically speaking, the more nuanced things, the hearings, those aren't really things that I touch. It has to be a little bit more major. Now, I do want to shout out to a friend of mine and a fellow creator, um, London's Notebook on TikTok. I think she posts on Instagram as well. She covers every intricate detail of the Kohberger case. I do more high level stuff, so just want to give her, my friend, a shout out. Now, before we start this, you guys know that I have to do shameless promotion, right? Because this is my full-time gig, and apparently I really just need to stop saying that, and I really just need to own it. But anyways, here's where we are. So first, as a lot of y'all know, I have a podcast. So not every one of these shows ends up as a podcast, but I know that a lot of y'all might not be able to watch this whole thing, but might be able to listen to it in the car or while you're doing yard work or whatever. So the podcast is called 50 Words for Murder. Justin on TikTok.com. Scroll down under my picture. You will see this big logo that I'm showing you, 50 Words for Murder, and you can follow that podcast. That's going to take you to Spotify, but it's available everywhere. This episode that we're talking about tonight, that will be on this podcast by tomorrow. The other things I need to talk to you guys about that y'all know, what goes well with true crime? Children's books, right? So I've written 2. I'm on the way to doing the 3rd one. This one is called Boundaries. If you'd like to buy it, you can get it through the TikTok shop or through the link in my bio. And basically what this one's about, what Boundaries is about, if you are no contact, limited contact with a family member, this is a way for you to explain that to them in a way that's easy for them to understand, that doesn't vilify that person, but then more importantly goes into teaching them the importance of boundaries, which is something that we weren't allowed to have, right? I use this tool with my daughter. She's one of the main reasons I wrote this book. So go pick up a copy. I promise you it's beneficial. And it's technically rated 4 to 8. That's what my publisher made me put on it. But I can tell you that I've had people into their 50s and 60s and buy it. I even had a conversation about that today. And it helps heal a lot of that inner child for people who are going through that. So it's kind of a parenting book that you can also read to kids. All right, the other one, which is the most recent one that just came out, and then we're going to get to this. Surprises are okay, secrets are not. And here's what I put, and this is going to be kind of a bold statement, y'all. I don't want to be talking about your kids on one of these episodes. When we talk about things like Madeline Soto, Audrey Cunningham, they had things, they had secrets that were forced on them. In this book right here, Surprises Are Okay, teaches secrets are not. It teaches your kids, one, that adults should never, ever ask a child to keep a secret. But then the book also gives you a discussion question at the end, open-ended, to have a conversation with your child, age appropriate. And again, it says 4 to 8 because that's what my publisher put on there, but I wrote it to go all the way up to 11 or 12. All right. So again, TikTok shop, Justin on TikTok.com. You can pick them up. I will sign them if you buy them, either one of those. And yeah, parenting tools. The next thing I want to talk about is if you are new to YouTube, or if you're watching here on TikTok, or even you're listening later on the podcast, y'all smash that subscribe button, follow button, whatever. If you want to become a member of the team, member of the family, support me more than just that, you can hit that join button at the bottom. Help support the podcast or the YouTube. Help support all of it. All of it goes to help support all of it. All right. So with all of that said, let's get to it. Bryan Kohberger defense team filed an alibi. You know what? Let me just pull it up. Let me just pull it up here. Okay. This was filed today, April 17th. Notice of defendant's supplemental response to state's alibi demand. Okay. I'm just going to read it. It's kind of small here. Let me get on the big screen and I'm going to read it to you. All right. This alibi, y'all. And this is not the first one he's done. I just don't feel like I can talk to you guys about it until we do it. When I did a video earlier today, I kind of did a brief overview, but y'all really kind of need to hear the whole thing. So, Mr. Kohberger moved to Pullman, Washington in June of 2022. As an avid runner and hiker, he explored many areas of the Palouse. Of note, he explored the Wallaway Park in July of 2022, and this became a favorite location. After the school year began, Mr. Kohberger was busy with classes and work at Washington State University, and his running and hiking decreased but did not stop. Instead, his nighttime drives increased, and this is supported by data from Mr. Kohberger's phone showing him. Hold on, let me pull up this for you guys to see this one. Y'all can read along that way. Pull back up. This Kohberger's phone showing him in the countryside late at night and or in the early morning on several locations. The phone data includes numerous photographs taken on several different late evenings and early mornings, including in November, depicting the night sky. And don't worry, we're going to dissect this, guys. I just want y'all to hear the whole thing. Mr. Kohberger was out driving in the early morning hours of November 13th, 2022, as he often did, to hike and run and or see the moon and stars. He drove throughout the area south of Pullman, Washington, west of Moscow, Idaho, including the Wallaway Park. Partial collaboration. Mr. Kohberger intends to offer testimony of Cy Ray, CSLI expert, cell tower, cell phone, and other radio frequency. CV is attached. I don't have that, but it was attached to this, I guess, when they filed it. To show that Bryan Kohberger's mobile device was south of Pullman, Washington, and west of Moscow, Idaho, on November 13th, 2022, that Bryan Kohberger's mobile device did not travel east on the Moscow-Pullman Highway in the early morning hours of November 13th, and thus could not be the vehicle captured on video along the Moscow-Pullman Highway near Floyd's cannabis shop. Additional information as to Mr. Kohberger's whereabouts as the early morning hours progressed, including additional analysis by Mr. Ray, will be provided once the state provides discovery requested and now subject to upcoming motion to compel. If not disclosed, Mr. Ray's testimony will also reveal that critical exculpatory evidence further corroborating Mr. Kohberger's alibi was either not preserved or has been withheld. So what does this mean, guys? What does it mean? What does it mean? All right, let's talk about it. This is an alibi, I guess. Look, I'm biased on Bryan Kohberger, guys. I really am. I am. My personal opinion is he's guilty of sin. My personal opinion is that they would not have been able to execute a search warrant the way that they did without having incredibly compelling evidence. It is also my opinion that Chief Fry, when giving the press conference right after Kohberger's arrest, he didn't say, "We think we have the guy." He said, "We have our guy," and he was very confident about that. Very confident. And every time we turn around, and look, I'm not hating on defense for this. Defense is doing what defense's job is. This is America. You have a right to a fair trial, jury of your peers. He has a right to representation. He has the right to an attorney, and he has all of that. He deserves all of that. Because what if he's not guilty? My opinion is he is. I think the evidence is there. But it does happen, and everybody deserves a fair trial. You don't have to like it. You don't have to agree with it. But if you were in that situation, you would want the same thing. All right? So she's just doing her job. But this is not the first time an alibi like this, something along the same lines, has been presented. There's a lot of Hail Marys that are thrown out by this defense team trying to get him pulled out. At the end of the day, Bryan Kohberger has been sitting in jail since, I can't remember. I think he was arrested at the very beginning part of 2023. Might have been late 20, but regardless, he's been sitting there for a year and a half at this point, or close to a year and a half at this point. He waived his right to a speedy trial. He's just living his best life behind bars, eating his vegan meals or whatever the hell he's doing, watching TV, playing on the internet, whatever. Apparently, he loves to hear stories about him, so hopefully he's watching this and he gets a kick out of it. Now, all that said, let's just go line by line on this, and I will tell you what I am thinking, but we'll also break it down. So, Mr. Kohberger moved to Pullman, Washington in June of 2022. We know what that means. They're saying that he was an avid runner and a hiker. He explored many areas, and there was this one particular park, the YY Way Park, discovered it in July of 22, and it became his favorite location, according to this alibi. Then it said, which would make sense, as school started, he became busy with classes. I mean, he was, in a graduate program. He was an undergrad. In a graduate program, the workload on that's high. I'll give him that. And he wasn't able to run or hike as much. It was the frequency decreased, but didn't stop. And again, you look at the guy, you look at his build. He's got a runner's body. He's thin, he's lean, he likes to run. So I can get behind that. I can believe that. I've been in college. I know what the workload can do. This isn't a guy who's out partying. I think that's very clear. But anyway, so he couldn't do what he liked to do, running and hiking. So apparently instead his nighttime drives increased, and that this is supported by data from Mr. Kohberger's phone showing him in the countryside late at night and or the early morning on several locations. So let's stop here and chat about this. School starts probably August-ish, maybe mid to late August, September. I don't know when it started, but somewhere in that time. He becomes more busy. He can't run and hike, so it says that he starts going out for driving more. I would be very curious to see when those drives started, and perhaps with this information that they're going to have, we'll have that, because I wonder if it was around the same time maybe he started eating at the Mad Greek restaurant. And believe me, I'm well aware, if you guys remember back then, that the Mad Greek put out this statement that they don't remember him. I'm going to just call BS on that they're not going to remember every single person, especially management. But that's beside the point. We're not here to talk about that. Or are we? But I'd be curious in that regard. Do I want to say this part yet? No, I don't think I do. The phone data includes numerous photographs taken on several different late evenings and early mornings, including in November, depicting the night sky. So all of that, you can't fake that. You got picture evidence. They pulled it from his phone. That's easily provable. That's data. But I can't help but wonder, this is a guy who studied serial killers. This is a guy who studied crime, law enforcement, forensics. My opinion, not fact. But the first thing that comes to my mind, I'm going to set up an alibi. I'm going to create a routine that I do this thing, these nighttime drives all the time. And that's the thing that I do. And so if and when I get arrested for this thing that I plan on doing, I'll have this great evidence that shows that this was not out of the norm for me to go do this. That's my opinion. Bryan Kohberger is not a stupid guy. And I think to think that he is truly underestimates his intelligence and is quite naive. Bryan Kohberger is not stupid. The only reason he got caught, from what we know at this point, is because of the knife sheath. And I think that you could easily justify in your head with logic that there became a struggle because there were two people in that room, dropped the sheath, the doors locked from the inside because we know the doors were locked because the roommates, nobody else could get in. They had to unlock the doors, and he couldn't get back in, and he was trying to get in and out as quickly as he can after he did allegedly did what he did. And had that not been left behind, we might still be looking. This might be a cold case. But I think he planned for that just in case. But one thing that it says is the phone data includes numerous photographs taken on several different late evenings and early mornings, including November, depicting the night sky. It does not say on November 13th there were pictures depicting the night sky. Which, okay, maybe he didn't take pictures of the night sky every night. Weird to take pictures of the night sky, but whatever. Maybe not if you have a telescope, but if it's on his phone, like I'm not going to put my phone up to the sky. Whatever. I mean, there's a lot of stars out there. It's not populous. Mr. Kohberger was out driving in the early morning hours of November 13th, 2022, as he often did, to hike and run and or see the moon and stars. Y'all, that's the alibi. Bryan Kohberger couldn't have done it because he was looking at the moon and stars, y'all. Some guy out there looking at the moon and stars couldn't have possibly been committing murder because he was busy looking at the sky. That's the alibi. Nobody was with him. There were no pictures from him looking at the night sky that night. But that's clearly, he couldn't do it, guys. That's clearly sarcasm, by the way. Clearly sarcasm. It also says that he drove throughout the area of South Pullman, Washington, west of Moscow, Idaho, including the Wallaway Park. Look, y'all have heard me talk about Sebastian Rogers. Y'all have heard me talk about Bryan Kohberger in the past and about this phone and the pings. Bryan wanted to do digital forensics. Do you think he's not going to know how to hide his tracks to at least some degree when it comes to the cell phone data? You know, again, I have made this statement that there is a possibility regarding Christopher Proudfoot, this is talking about Sebastian Rogers for just a quick second, that he was in Memphis on the phone with his wife for 3 hours, which is about the same time it takes to get from Memphis to Nashville, where they live, by the way, about 3 hours. It'd be easy for somebody to leave a phone on a nightstand, drive home, do what you got to do, and go back. Okay? That's just putting it really high level. Bryan Kohberger could have easily put his phone somewhere, turned it off, whatever the case is, but we know that the phone had turned off at one point and then came back on. We know that. That was already put out there. So I guess we're going to see how that all comes together, right? I don't know. But this says he couldn't have done it because of the moon and stars. So the next thing is Mr. Kohberger intends to offer testimony of Cy Ray, who's a CSLI expert, you know, guy who deals with cell towers, phones, radio frequencies, etc. You know, supposed to be able to triangulate and pinpoint this data and do a whole bunch of stuff that I'm sure he deserves whatever he makes to be able to do. It's a heck of a skill set. And he's going to use that to show that Bryan Kohberger's mobile device was south of Pullman and west of Moscow, meaning he couldn't have possibly been in Moscow on November 13th. Well, we know he couldn't have been in Moscow because he was out looking at the moon and stars, guys. This part isn't even relevant because he was out looking at the moon and stars by himself. Clearly an alibi. Anybody see you looking at the moon and stars? No. Any witnesses to it? No. Did you record yourself? No. Trust me, bruh. I was looking at the moon and stars. Anyways. They're going to also show that his device did not travel east on the highway, meaning east into Moscow, east from Pullman, Washington to Moscow during those early hours. But if I recall correctly, that phone was off during some of those hours. If I recall correctly, earlier on in this, Chief Fry, when information was being released, stated that they had a lot of evidence, digital phone evidence, that showed that his phone, Bryan Kohberger's phone, had been in the area of the 1122 King Road house multiple times. I forget how many times off the top of my head, but multiple times before. But apparently this night, they're saying that there's no way it could have done it. And that because they're going to show that the phone did not travel east, probably because it was off, it couldn't possibly have been him in the vehicle that was captured on video along the Moscow-Pullman highway. Couldn't possibly be him because he was out looking at the moon and stars. I'm going to stop, guys, I promise. Additional information as to Mr. Kohberger's whereabouts as the early morning hours progressed, including additional analysis by Mr. Ray, will be provided, basically once they get more information. And basically what they're saying is that if this information is not disclosed, they're basically going to say, well, there's critical exculpatory evidence. What is exculpatory evidence? Exculpatory evidence is evidence that proves that you couldn't have possibly done it, and they better come with something much stronger than I was looking at the moon and stars. They're hoping to go for, hey, this wasn't turned over to us, so obviously here's what they're saying, in my opinion, when I read this. If you don't turn over this information and we don't see this particular information, then that's just going to prove that we're right, that you guys are withholding something or you're not preserving something because we don't see this. You must have done something wrong because he has this wonderfully strong alibi. Whatever. So that's what's going on with Bryan Kohberger. Let's chat about this. What do y'all think? What do y'all think? I'll even look at TikTok for this right now. Drop it in the comments. What do y'all think about this? Between both platforms, we have like 700-800 people watching. Total BS. Laughable. Hope a jury sees right through it. Man, if I was a juror, I'd be like, moon and stars, we got to quit this guy. Trying to figure out how to rhyme that with like the glove don't fit. Y'all come up with something good, let me know. There was trash found at his parents. Let's talk about that. I want to talk about that. Let's talk about that. Look, y'all, I'm not trying to like call out anybody on the spectrum. Okay? Because I believe that Kohberger is somewhere on the spectrum. Because that would be the only reason why somebody is up in the middle of the night at their parents' house, taking their trash and putting it in plastic baggies while you're wearing rubber gloves, putting it in baggies, and then taking it to neighbors' trash cans to dump it. Because if you have such a strong alibi and you didn't commit murder because you were looking at moon and stars, I'm sorry, I can't drop it, guys. I'm going to keep saying it. I just can't help myself. I just can't help it. And you're not trying to hide DNA evidence and contaminate DNA evidence, then that's the only other reason why you would be doing something like that. It's weird. I like it. When it comes to a guilty verdict, if the moon don't glow, you must say no. We're coining that, just peachy. If the moon don't glow, you must say no. Y'all. Peachy, that's yours. You own that. Innocent until proven guilty. He's innocent. Y'all, again, I don't typically do this on the show, but I've been a little froggy today. Guys, I'm a little spicy today. Let's go for it. Janet, what evidence do you have that Bryan Kohberger is innocent? I'm going to wait. And while I wait for you, can I just say, like, I know in America, according to our Constitution, blah, 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 we are innocent until proven guilty. But I'm going to argue that and say that that's a crock. Because Bryan Kohberger has been sitting in jail for 1.5 years. And they don't put innocent people in jail and just let them sit there. If he was innocent, he could have posted his bond and walked out. But why don't you post a bond? Because you have enough evidence against you to show. What evidence proves that he's guilty? I love Janet. Janet's my new favorite, guys. Janet is my new favorite. I don't know. The cell phone records, the fact that there was a knife sheath with his DNA on it, the fact that his car was seen on camera speeding away, the fact that cell phone evidence corroborates and triangulates to him being in that house in that area multiple times, including the morning after the murders or the morning of the murders later in the morning. And that's just what we know. That's just what we know. I mean, it hasn't gone through court. So there's no guilty. Amazing, all the blood in the car. Jan, I can't keep doing this with you. Sometimes people lack. Look, again, I'm spicy, guys. He doesn't have a bond. I'm spicy, guys. You can't argue with people who aren't logical. You can't be logical with the illogical. Me continuing to try to argue with Jana is going to hurt my head. And it's going to drop my IQ points. Okay? And Nash just looked it up. There was no moon on November 13th, 2023, and it was a new moon. Anyways, we're not going to keep arguing with Janet because Janet's now saying a whole bunch of stuff that we haven't even mentioned. She's just making stuff up. You guys can handle her in the comments. Anyways, any else comments? If y'all want to come over to YouTube and argue with Janet, come on, jump on. Justin on TikTok, on YouTube. Come on over. Because it's going to hurt my head to talk about it. And there was freezing fog that night, making it possible to see the stars and no moon. No moon. I'm writing this down, y'all. No stars on November 13th. You better not tell the jury that. People don't listen to me. I'm looking at these comments here. Just the murder in 2022, not 2024. I said it was in 2022. I literally read that probably 30 times. Did I say 2024 a second ago? Whatever. I don't know. It was in 2022. Oh, sorry. What he said. Sorry. Yeah, I knew what he meant though. Gotcha. I'm there. Anyways, no, don't tell Janet to get out. Let her say it's fun. I said 23. No, he's been sitting in jail since 2023. It doesn't matter. Dates don't matter here. Murders happened in 22. He was arrested in 23. There was no moon. There was freezing fog. All of that stuff. At the end of the day, dude standing in his kitchen, boxer shorts when the house gets raided, wearing rubber gloves, putting his personal trash into Ziploc bags. Ziploc bags, which, by the way, apparently quickly deteriorate DNA. But just in case that's not enough, he walks over to his neighbor's yard. Totally actions of an innocent person. Now, obviously, that's circumstantial. You can't admit that. That's not admissible in court, right? That's not admissible. He's picking his trash out of trash cans and putting his trash in little Ziploc bags and walking it over to the neighbor's house, having no clue that the FBI was watching him. But guys, there's always going to be stands for these people. Currently, for Sebastian Rogers, there are stands for Chris and Katie Proudfoot. During Gabby Petito, I dealt with a lot of stands for Brian Laundrie. And there's going to be some people that want to support Bryan Kohberger. We can't help these people, guys. They're beyond help. Let him have it. If it turns out that he's innocent, he's found not guilty, and there's some great, strong evidence, then great. He didn't do it. But then you know what that means? It means that there's still a killer out there. That's what that means. And the community isn't safe. But if you had this great, strong evidence, this great, strong alibi, why are you still sitting in jail a year and a half later? You know? It's the same thing I've said with Sebastian Rogers, which is in my community directly. either the step parents and the stepdad and mom did something with him, or we have a child abductor in this area and we need to know about it. Anyways, guys, this is a Hail Mary. This is another stall of this trial for these families to get closure. Jan, I don't know if you're still in here, but you got to remember too, as you're sitting here, standing Bryan Kohberger, there are 4 families out there that have lost their children. 4 families that deserve justice. If any of those families were in here right now, would you feel comfortable saying Bryan Kohberger's innocent and defending him in front of them? You know, just think about that before you type things on the internet. It doesn't affect me if you think that way. There are people out there, just remember that. There are families that are affected by this. True crime is not here for your entertainment. We're here to help spread awareness and help hopefully find and help prevent people from becoming future victims. That's what all of this is about. At the end of the day, a lot of it is interesting. A lot of it's intriguing. This case, Bryan Kohberger, Moscow, Idaho, it's an intriguing case. There's no doubt about that. And you get invested. If you have kids, these could be your kids. I'm a father. And they deserve justice. But there's a lot of evidence pointing at somebody in particular. Police work that was done by, local law enforcement, the FBI, the Idaho Bureau of Investigation, whatever it's called, I forget. And I think they might have brought Secret Service in for that one. I can't remember. But they felt very, very, very confident in the information that they had. And yes, it is technically in writing, innocent until proven guilty, even though innocent person sitting in the jail. Innocent. With his very strong alibi of looking at the moon and stars. I mean, that's technically right. You're innocent until proven guilty. But I can tell you that the FBI, law enforcement, whatever state agency Idaho has, they're all smarter than all of us. They know a lot more information than all of us. How many terabytes did they have to go through? We couldn't possibly comprehend that amount of information that they have. You can bet that there's a lot of things that have not been shared with us. A lot. And for a judge to sign off on a no-knock warrant in another state for a crime committed in a different state, that evidence must be damn compelling. And then we saw on that warrant the information that was shown. And it was long, y'all. It was like 2 pages. And usually those things are just a couple lines. And that's just what they were willing to share at that moment. Imagine what else is out there. And all of that stuff was very specific to Bryan Kohberger. 51 terabytes is how much information it was. 51 terabytes. Let me see. I can't remember exactly what it was. Let's Google real quick. You can hear me typing. $51 terabyte. It's 51,000 gigabytes. You can fit, I don't know. It's big, guys. It's big. And they have that of video, audio, and digital materials. It's huge. Okay. 100,000 songs would be half of a terabyte. 200,000 songs is a terabyte. And that's 1 terabyte. And he's got 51 of those. 51. That's huge, y'all. Anyways, it's weird. So that's what I got for tonight. What questions do you guys have? What questions do you guys have? What do you want to talk about? What questions do you have on this? Because it's been a while since we've talked about this. I don't know. Nobody's asking any questions, guys. Why are they able to keep evading the trial? They keep filing different motions and those keep passing. Now, my understanding is that prosecution has not turned over everything, and that is on them. That is on them. There was also some stuff, as somebody just reminded me, Jessica just reminded me, that the lawyer did pull some super shady stuff. She's trying to get a change of venue. So she sent out a survey locally, basically to taint the jury pool. This is real. They had a whole hearing about this to taint the jury pool so that they would have to force a change of venue. It's if we can't win on having good evidence, let's win on a technicality. Again, sounds like somebody who's innocent. You can't win on having an actual alibi. You can't win due to a lack of evidence because apparently there's enough there. So let's win on a technicality. Let's find a way. But she's doing what she's supposed to do, guys. When it comes to being an attorney, the court of law, things like that, winning is winning. It doesn't matter how you do it. You can play dirty as long as it's within the rules. It's going to be an interesting trial for sure. It might even be the trial of the decade. The century would be we're still fairly early in the century, but it's going to be a heck of a trial. It's going to be very interesting. I think it's probably going to end up being around mid-summer 2025, somewhere in there. But Ann Taylor's got a lot of work ahead of her. She's got a lot of data and information and evidence that she needs to go through. And I hope she has a heck of a team because that's a lot. So, yeah. And here's the thing, guys. If Bryan Kohberger is actually innocent and there is some good information that can prove that, and it's more than reasonable that he didn't do it, then he shouldn't go to jail. I'll be the first one to say that. We shouldn't send somebody to jail just to send somebody to jail or prison or or don't do the chair or the death penalty just to do it, just because, hey, that's justice. If he didn't do it, then he doesn't deserve that, no matter how whatever he is. But he's been sitting in jail for a year and a half over this. He's playing his cards close to the chest. And I've not seen anything come out. I've not seen defense present anything, including today's alibi, that begins to closely clear him. So I don't know. He's living his best life. He's apparently not affected. Apparently, he's got it pretty good in there. It's a very, very small jail. They're accommodating him with his food. Look, and I'm not even mad at that. People are like, why are they giving him vegan food? You got to, man, you got to accommodate some things. I'm not mad about that. I'm not mad about that. But he's sitting there. He gets his computer. He doesn't talk very much. He keeps to himself. He watches TV. He's apparently a model inmate. But I personally feel that this alibi is pretty darn weak. It's almost laughable that this is what you would present. Because in this route, I would imagine there's probably limited cameras. There's not a lot of cameras in federal parks. We learned that during Gabby Petito. There's not a lot of cameras in federal parks. I don't really go to federal parks. But the route that his car took, the route that pinged that night, did kind of go through Moscow. Went all the way around and back to Pullman. He took the long way out. But I feel like you need to stop presenting the same "I was out driving" as an alibi. It's weird, guys. Anyways. Who wants to go hiking in the woods at night? There's a lot of stuff, a lot of nocturnal creatures that come out. Anyways. Bryan Kohberger's interesting. And maybe he didn't do it. Maybe he's just an off kind of guy. I don't want to say off, a guy who marches to the beat of his own drum. But then how did your DNA get on a sheath that was left there? You can't get past that. Other than that, he or whoever did this did an incredibly good job covering their tracks. Incredibly good job covering their tracks. What I understand, there was no blood anywhere, even leaving the house. And we saw that, it was dripping down the walls when we saw those pictures before they tore the house down. Each human body holds about 4 or 5 liters of blood, right? Is that what it is? Gallon and a half. You had 4 victims. Think about that. I don't want to get too graphic with this, but 4 people, gallon and a half, 4 to 6.5, 7 gallons of blood. Imagine taking like 7 milk cartons and just pouring them out onto the floor. And I'm not trying to give you all a visual, but I am. That's how much. There's a lot. And if you are using, a stabby object, a knife, there's going to be some splatter back on you. And there's going to be blood spatter. It's going to get on your clothes. So whoever did it, though, they kept it confined to the rooms. They found a partial footprint. That's all they found with the luminol. That's all they found. So whoever did this, Bryan Kohberger, somebody other than Bryan Kohberger, they were good. They covered their tracks. And had that sheath not been dropped, we would probably have moved on to the next case by now, and this would be a cold case. So whoever did it was good, guys. That's like some Dexter level stuff. And if you've never seen Dexter, it's a great show. You should. If you like true crime and you've never seen Dexter, I promise you're missing out. Just don't watch the last episode of Dexter New Blood. You're going to be very disappointed. But it was very well thought out. Anyways, whoever did it was good. They were smart. They were calculated. And like I said, Bryan Kohberger is not a stupid man. You don't have to like him. Even if he's innocent, you don't have to like him, but he is not a stupid man. And thinking that he is truly underestimates him. I would imagine his IQ is quite high. Anyways, it's interesting. I'm curious to see what else comes out of this, because I think with the fact that we're coming close to another hearing that's going to possibly, hopefully, set a trial date finally, I think we're going to see more stuff coming out. And as we do, if it's stuff this big, I'll be covering it. If you want to hear the more nuanced stuff, the stuff that's for the little hearings, again, I said at the beginning of this video, London's Notebook on TikTok and Instagram. She's wonderful. I will try to work on getting her a to start on YouTube because her stuff is really good. But she covers all of this stuff to a very, very high level if you want to hear that. But I think that we're going to start getting some movement back on this case again, because it's been a while and stuff has to move. It has to move forward. It's been sitting stagnant for too long. You've had a lot of situations where they've tried to get it thrown out and they've not been successful with it. And I don't think you're going to be successful with this one, because this alibi is weak, in my opinion. But it's something. They filed something. You know, shoot your shot. You miss all the chances you don't take. It's all the shots you don't take. This is the shot they choose to take. Maybe not the one that I would have chose, but it's the one that they chose. But this trial needs to happen, because these families, you know what? I'm just going to put this. Joe Petito has said that there will never be closure for what happened to Gabby Petito. There will never be closure for that. All they can do is cope and move on. That's all they can do, is cope and move on. And do the best that they can with that. Well, the families of Maddie Mogan, Kaylee Gonzalez, Xander Knodel, and Ethan Chapin, they can't move on. They're stuck in this limbo where their children are gone. They're gone very publicly, very brutally. They have a guy sitting in jail, arrested for charged with their murders. And they're not going to be able to start any type of healing process until that's over. And that's not fair to them either. And maybe that's why I get a little passionate about this. Because I can tell you that not all the families say anything, but the Gonsalves family loves to talk. And they know more than we know. And they're very confident. And look, they want justice for their kid. They want justice for Kaylee. They don't want somebody to pay for a crime that they didn't do. They want the person who did the crime to pay for what they did. And to them, that person is Bryan Kohberger, based on the information that they have been presented with. And those families deserve justice, every one of them. And I hope that they get it. At the same time, if Bryan, I'll say it again, if Bryan is not guilty, then he shouldn't have to pay for the crime. If he's not guilty. But there's a big if with that. But then, if that's the case, that we've had a year and a half, 2 years, that a real killer, air quotes, is out there. And there's been no searching, because now it's all focused on court and hearing and stuff like that. Anyways, I think I've talked this to death. So we're going to close out. We're going to close out. So again, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button. We're trying to grow this. We do a show every single day. This particular show is going to end up on 50 Words for Murder, probably tonight. Definitely tonight. The other thing that's going to end up here on YouTube and probably not though, definitely on YouTube. We did a live with the family of Caleb Harris's family. Family of Caleb Harris. The spokesperson for Caleb Harris's family. We did a live on TikTok with them tonight. If you missed it, it was the latest information, the newest information, straight from the horse's mouth, straight from the spokesperson. And I'm going to be uploading it the moment I get off of here. I may show back up on TikTok tonight, guys. But nevertheless, please check out the merch store. Please check out the books. I will sign them if you buy them. Just on TikTok.com or TikTok Shop. And I'll see you guys a little later. Thanks for hanging out with me.